think so. Okay. So I'm just gonna go ahead and share with you guys. So basically what I was thinking was, I'm just gonna basically give you guys a brief overview of what a virtual appointment is like with a doula. Before COVID hit, typically I would take between one, sometimes up to 4 clients a month. And I would see clients 2 or 3 times prenatally, be with them for their birth, and then usually check back in 24 to 48 hours later, just kind of see how they're doing. But now with COVID, I've shifted to doing most of my appointments virtually, which is like sitting at the top of my driveway in my car, sometimes meeting at a park, so we can give social distance and stuff like that. So it's a lot different than how it used to be. But I feel like I have kind of just recently kind of settled into it. And thankfully now in Athens, our local hospital of Blenheim is now allowing birthing women to bring a doula with them in addition to their husband or their partner or whoever their other support person is. So that's really exciting because for a few months I was doing all of the virtual or all the prenatal work with people, but then not actually being able to attend their birth. So I feel like I'm kind of back in business now and I'm able to really support people through the whole labor process. All right, so I've got a number of different points that we're going to go through. Basically, the first thing that I want to always make sure that clients do is that they can trust their own intuition and really get in the habit of listening to that inner voice and really considering, how do I feel about this? What do I think about this? What does my past experience tell me? Having, kind of as how that relates to the things that you'll face prenatally and then the things that you're going to be facing once you get to the hospital. I think it's important for us all to remember that this process of giving birth to a baby is something that our bodies are made to do. That doesn't mean that every woman is going to be able to have that glorious vaginal birth, but this is what our bodies are made to do. And even if the best way for your baby to be born ends up being a cesarean birth, I think that it's still good to have that trust and that faith in your body, that your body can do this. Whether the next thing is going to be breastfeeding or whatever that is, just to have that trust in your body. I think it's important to be able to relax into the process and just to kind of be able to go with the flow with whatever needs to happen with your birth. A lot of times plans will change. The idea of how you wanted your labor to go, we don't always get to pick and choose exactly how things go. So I think it's important just to be able to remain kind of flexible. I think that becomes important too whenever you're a parent. Parenting children, it's not like it's always going to follow exactly how I think it's going to go. It's not always a pretty process. So just trusting in the process and trusting in your own intuition is really important. I think along with trusting in your intuition, I think it's also can be really helpful for women to think about all of the women that have come before us who have already given birth, our mothers, our grandmothers, every woman in history that's ever had a baby, and just kind of tune into that. And at the moment and during that day that you're in labor, knowing that you're not alone and that there's other women around the world giving birth on that very same day as well. I found that really powerful. As I was going through the sensations and going through the contractions and everything, just to know that there's women all over the world who are doing this, that kind of just gave me a sense of like sisterhood or something and helped me to feel just a lot stronger in the process. Okay, my second thing that I feel like is important for women to know is just really the importance of nourishing your body. People talk about like you're eating for 2, which doesn't necessarily mean that you should be eating twice as much, but you should really be thinking about the foods that you're putting into your body. So staying really hydrated is super important. A dehydrated mom can start having contractions, and these aren't labor contractions. It's your body reacting, saying like something's not right. And so staying hydrated is really important. And mostly it should be water that you're drinking more than anything else. I think red raspberry leaf tea is something that I always encourage my clients to drink. Red raspberry leaf is an herb that is like perfectly made to support women's bodies. Everything having to do with reproduction, everything having to do with producing milk, like red raspberry leaf is like the one herb. I mean, there's other herbs too, of course, that help, but I feel like that's like the primary one that really helps women's bodies. So drinking that red raspberry leaf tea, staying hydrated, eating well, and also not just nourishing like your body by the food that you need, but nourishing your soul and your spirit. Taking that time at the end of the day to sit down and honor yourself, and just like have those moments of being thankful for the work that your body is doing. You know, you're growing a baby inside. That's miraculous and that's amazing. And just take that time to really like thank your body and just, you know, like build yourself up, like have that positive self-talk. Yeah, just taking that time to kind of center yourself. I always like to take a nice long bath at the end of the day, like light some candles and just like take some time to just like honor myself, you know. I feel like that is just like a really good thing to do. Okay, I'm gonna kind of start shifting into birth and thinking about that. So the first thing is whether you're giving birth at home or you're giving birth at the hospital, think about ways that you can create a space that's going to help you to feel safe and comfortable and just like, this is where I want to have my baby. So like break it down to your 5 senses. So think about what you're going to be looking at, what you're going to be seeing, you know, bringing pictures, either like that ultrasound picture of your baby. If you have older children, bring some pictures of them. If you have like a picture, like a painting or, you know, a picture of a place that you've been that just helps you feel peaceful and relaxed, you know, bring those things, fill your space with things that you like to look at. Yeah, if you think about smells, maybe if there's essential oils that you like. The 2 that I always like to bring are lemongrass and lavender. I always have those in my doula backpack. I think the lavender can just be like calming and relaxing. The lemongrass is like energizing. And at different points in labor, you might kind of want to like feed into and use some of those kind of attributes that they have. If there's different essential oils that you like, bring what you like, bring stuff that you like, how it smells.
I think I've also heard some like doulas and childbirth educators say like to suggest to put it like on a washcloth or like smell it from the bottle instead of rubbing it onto your skin in case you change your mind. Because if you like suddenly decide that it's like not working for you and it's on your skin, then it's like really hard to get off.
Yeah.
But that you can use it in a different way to, as long as it's enjoyable for you, and then somebody can take the washcloth away if you change your mind.
Yeah, for sure. And essential oils, like I never use them as a topical treatment to myself or to clients. Usually I would either have like a diffuser in the room or even just like a cotton ball that I dab a little on and then it sits in the corner or just kind of sits somewhere in the space. And, you know, especially like once you're like really into birth and things are happening, sometimes there can be smells in the room that aren't especially pleasant. And I know from my own personal birthing experience, there's a point where I was like, it smells bad. I know it smells bad in this room. Everybody else in this room knows that it stinks and we all know why. And I was feeling like self-conscious about it. So I was like, somebody light a candle, and it was a home birth, so it worked. We could light a candle and like just to have like a positive smell wash over the room, it helped me to feel more relaxed and less, you know, self-conscious or anything, you know. But yeah, that's definitely a good point. Whenever you're it could be silencing your phone so that you're not being distracted by the dings and the things that your phone's doing, all the notifications. And then also the voices of the other people in the room. Whoever your partner is going to be, who's coming with you, you know, let them know beforehand that you just want them to speak to you in a calm voice. You know, I know my husband has a deep voice, and sometimes that deep voice, it just irritates me. And I love my husband, but that like that rough way of talking, it's like I don't want to hear that, especially when I'm in labor. So, you know, have those little conversations prenatally and just let your partner know that I want you to speak to me in your softest, kindest voice when I'm in labor. So touch. The things that I think about whenever we're thinking about the sense of touch in your labor space, I always like to have my own pillow there. You know, it smells good also. It smells like your home. It smells like what you're comfortable with. But also, you know, it's going to be like the right texture for what you are used to, what you like. Bring slippers that are comfortable. Make sure you've got chapstick. Like, just kind of like think about your physical body and what you can do to help yourself feel more comfortable. I encourage clients to bring like a baby blanket or maybe like socks that their baby's going to wear, you know, and you can rub that and you can like have that right there next to you as a way of remembering, like, why am I going through this? Like, what is my prize at the end again? You know, so things like that. Okay, and then we get to taste. So if you're in the hospital, typically the only food that they're going to let you have the only food that they're going to let you have is going to be clear liquids. So clear liquids is going to be Jello, popsicles, broth, maybe juice, ice chips, water, things like that. If you have particular preferences of the kind of popsicle you want, I know hospitals tend to have popsicles that are full of sugar and artificial flavors, artificial colors. And so a good number of my clients prefer to avoid those things. So grab a cooler, have it ready to go. You take it with you to the hospital, and the nurses can typically put your popsicles into a freezer. So you've got what you want there. Same thing for broth. They will offer you broth. It tends to be extra salty. So if there's some other thing that you would like to have, you've got the right to bring that with you. And then also, yeah, bring your tea bags, you know, so that you can still be drinking the tea that you want to be drinking. Just having that stuff on hand can be really helpful. Okay, my next point that I want to talk about is really important. This is communication. So not only communicating with your partner, but also communicating with the people who are going to be serving you in the hospital. So the first thing that I want to talk about is a birth plan. I think that the benefit of a birth plan is not just to put down on paper the way you want things to go, because we all have to surrender to birth. We don't really get to choose how our birth goes. We can choose where we birth our baby or where we are trying to birth our baby, but we don't really have a lot of control over how things go. I think the best benefit of a birth plan is it gives you the opportunity to think about, ideally, how do I want things to go and why do I feel that way? And then through a birth plan, you can communicate those wishes with your partner and with the hospital staff. I think remembering that plans don't always go the way we want them to. And so, again, staying flexible and staying open to change is important. But having those things written out can help the hospital staff to understand and know you a little bit better. And it can also open up a great moment of communication for you and your partner, just so that you're both on board with this. These are my wishes, and this is why I would like it to be this way, or why I would like to avoid particular things. With communication with the hospital staff, informed consent is really important. So informed consent means whatever procedures you're being offered, that you have a full understanding of why they're being offered, and what potential side effects and risks might be. So there's a couple of questions that you can ask whenever you're being offered something at the hospital. So if you think of the word brain, right, you want to use your brain. So the B is for benefits. What are the benefits of accepting this? The R is for risks. What are the risks of accepting this? The A is for alternatives. Is there another option? Are there alternatives? The A, in my mind, also stands for additional procedures to follow. So if you accept, say, yes, I want the epidural, what are some other things that are also going to be coming along with that? Because if you do say, okay, yes, I want the epidural, that also means that you won't be getting out of bed. It also means you'll be getting a catheter. You know, so there's other procedures that will routinely follow a number of different medical options that you may have. So the I is intuition. Once again, checking in with yourself, just thinking, how do I really feel about this? Do I accept this? Do I feel like this is a good choice for me? And then N is nothing. What if we choose to do nothing right now? What are the consequences of that? What if we just choose to do nothing for a time period? Can we wait a couple hours? Can we wait until tomorrow? You know, it just kind of depends on what that thing is that they're offering you. But choosing to do nothing is also a choice. Of course, if this is an emergency and they're saying, baby's heart rate is dropping, or kind of whatever those red flags are, and they're suggesting, we think you need a cesarean birth, asking the question of, is this an emergency? And if it is an emergency, then of course it's time to accept the procedures that are going to ensure a healthy mom and a healthy baby. So communication with partner. One of the only homework assignments that I ever give to my clients, but I always give it to my clients, is a little time for the birthing woman and her partner to practice communication. So the way we're going to practice this is that it's time for partner dad, whoever their partner is, to give this pregnant woman a massage. And not just any massage, but it's going to be giving her a massage and striving to give the best massage that this person can. Partner's role is to listen and then to try to follow through with what's being asked of them. Pregnant mom's role is to practice speaking and clearly giving direction of what would feel better, what would feel good. If something doesn't feel right, or I don't like that kind of touch, be able to voice that and let that be known. So I think, a lot of times our partners might know to rub your shoulders when you're feeling stressed, or give you a little foot massage or whatever. But I think a lot of times, some of that physical touch, it tends to be like, I'm going to give this back massage, and then it's going to lead into pleasure for both of us. So I say this back massage or this massage, the sole purpose is for communicating. It's not because at the end of this, we're both going to feel good, right? So this isn't a foreplay massage. This is just a massage to really practice communication. And it's also to help that partner better understand how to touch their pregnant woman. What's going to feel good? What do they like? What kind of touch is the right touch? Sometimes people don't like to maybe have their feet rubbed, or there might be a certain part of their body that they feel uncomfortable being touched. And sometimes that's never been voiced. Even if you've been married for a year or 5 years, maybe it's never come up. So this is a really good opportunity to make sure that you have that communication, and that your partner knows she doesn't want to be touched here, or she doesn't like this particular kind of touch. So really finding ways to practice communicating. Okay, my next point is movement. Movement and being active in labor, I think, is really important. With that being said, anytime the woman calls me and says, I think I'm in labor, I always say, awesome, drink some water, go to the bathroom, and try to rest. Early in labor, when you're still able to rest through contractions, even if it's noon or 1 o'clock, I always tell people, just go lay down and get some rest, because you need to store up some of that energy. Once your labor is at a point that you're not able to rest through contractions, and you're really focusing your energy, you're really aware of what's happening, and then it's time to get up and be active. Being active in labor might be sitting on a yoga ball and swaying side to side. It might be taking a walk. It might be kind of practicing some different labor positions. Let's see, I wanted to show you guys a couple really quick labor positions. I don't know how this will work with my cell phone. So let me try this and see if we can do this. Okay. So one of the positions that I encourage is just hands and knees. Whenever you're in this hands and knees, it can allow you to kind of stretch your back, and kind of work through some of those sensations. Can you guys still hear me? Okay, cool. Another position that I think is really good is squatting, and I encourage women to practice squatting prenatally. You're going to be squatting once you have a toddler. Just practice squatting. Just let that bum kind of fall lower, let it fall low, hanging right in between my feet. My feet are flat on the ground. Just kind of practice being in that squat. A position that I found myself in whenever I was in labor was this asymmetrical thing. I don't know if you guys can see me. Okay, so I found it really helpful to kind of be in a way that I could have one leg outstretched. you know, and maybe I've got one leg up so I can stretch into it, or maybe I'm going to switch and do the other leg, but just really getting flexible with your body and just finding ways to move and kind of allow that pain, that sensation of contraction to not become stagnant. Like you don't want to just sit in one place. It's like moving your body can help to kind of shift that sensation around. So yeah, walking can be extremely helpful. Also the yoga ball, if you have a yoga ball at home, that is an awesome tool. And I think, you know, you can just sit on the yoga ball. You can sit in this like spread eagle kind of way, make room for your belly to hang there. I think also having movement on the yoga ball. And it's like, if you can do a little wiggle, that's awesome. But if you can do like a more really like deep stretching, that's going to be even better. Let's see. So there's a lot of other positions that you can try whenever you're in labor. I'll share something at the end of this that's just a handout that's got a bunch of different ones. It's from Penny Simpkin. You can probably look it up and find it, but it's just, you know, positions to help shorten labor. Okay, my next point is the double hip squeeze. And I shared a link for a doula teaching how to do the double hip squeeze. The double hip squeeze is awesome. This is something that I do for a lot of my clients prenatally as a way of just kind of showing them how it should feel and how it can feel. And then also, a lot of times I'll do it when she's in labor, sometimes during every contraction, you know, for an hour or two, just to kind of have that counter pressure. The way that the double hip squeeze works is if you think about a clothespin. If you squeeze it at the top, then it opens up at the bottom. So it's like, the link is awesome, and it will really explain a lot better than I can do sitting here all by my lonesome without, you know, somebody to show and to really talk about it. But getting your partner to learn how to do the double hip squeeze can be really beneficial. I know I found that during my last trimester of pregnancy, my hips would get so loose that it was like I would wake up and feel like I couldn't stand up because my hips were just out of place, or I was having lower back pain. And I found that if I had my husband do the double hip squeeze and hold it for 30 seconds to a minute and then release and then do it again for another 30 seconds to a minute, that it seemed to just kind of reset everything in my hips. And then I could go about my day like a normal pregnant lady and, you know, like be able to walk and be able to do these things. So the double hip squeeze, definitely check out that link. I think that's a great one. My next point is on breathing and visualizing. So I don't believe that there's a prescribed way that we're supposed to be breathing when we're in labor. Our bodies know how to breathe and how to change our breath when we're running or when we're walking or when we're doing these different things. And I believe it's the same way with being in labor. I think that if you find yourself taking really shallow breaths, then you may need to remind yourself, like, I need to breathe deeply. I find myself taking these deep cleansing breaths anytime I'm feeling stressed out or anxious. And it's the same way that I would practice breathing whenever I was in labor. So it's just taking a deep breath in through your nose and letting it out through your mouth. I think that practicing that deep breathing as a way of calming and centering yourself is really good, but I don't think that you need to have a specific way that you're practicing breathing when you're in labor. I think just listening to your body and just making sure that you're not holding your breath is really important. So visualizing. Whenever you're in labor, basically as many positive inputs as you can be feeding yourself, the less your body is going to be aware of like that uncomfortable sensation of being in labor. So for some women, to have a visualization works really well. It may be, think about that place that makes you feel peaceful, whether it's the top of a mountain or sitting on a beach or wherever that might be. You know, so just taking that moment to like close your eyes and think about your happy place and breathe in deeply and just focus on that. Visualization might be something like when you're having a contraction, Visualize a flower opening. You could be visualizing your cervix opening. You could be visualizing like the waves coming in and going back out. So having like a planned visualization can sometimes be really helpful. So think about like what is a beautiful picture in your mind, is what is something that you can think of to kind of distract your mind just a little bit. And that can be really helpful for some women. My next point are the 3 R's. So it's relaxation, rhythm, and ritual. This kind of can tie into that visualization thing. So relaxation, finding ways that you can be comfortable, finding things that make you comfortable. If you're somebody who likes to take showers or likes to take baths, if your water has broken, you're not taking a bath, but you can still take a shower. But you know, finding those things that are going to help you to feel relaxed. Finding your rhythm. Your rhythm might be a physical rhythm. It might be dancing. It might be swaying. It might be like patting your hand on something, but it's kind of finding that rhythm. A ritual kind of ties that relaxation and that rhythm all together. The ritual is going to be something that you're going to be repeating. Sometimes it's just a way of sighing. You know, it might just be whenever I'm having these strong contractions, my ritual is going to be that after or during every contraction, I'm going to take this big deep breath. And just let it out. Maybe it's going to be releasing your muscles and focusing on, you know, starting in the neck and letting your neck feel relaxed, and then working down your shoulders and just working all the way down and just finding things that you can do to help yourself to feel relaxed. I think it could be focusing your attention in a specific way. Maybe it's that finding an object, or it might just be looking in your partner's eyes. I tend to wear really fabulous earrings. And I've had a couple clients who said like, I couldn't stop looking at your earrings. And usually I'll wear something like a circle, you know, that symbolizes like that cervix opening. These ones are fun. I just got these a couple months ago. So just finding something in your space that you can look at, just to help you to have like something to focus on. So you're not so focused on the sensations, but just finding things in your space that you can look at. That can be helpful. Yeah, other rituals might be tapping something, stroking, swaying, rocking, dancing. Some people find it helpful to have like a counting thing. You know, if you can like slowly count up to 10. Once you get to your peak, then slowly count, you know, 10 back down to 0. Some people really like counting, and numbers work for them. I think most women at a point in their labor, having these pre-planned rituals go out the window, and something happens where you shift into this more instinctual state where maybe you didn't plan on making this particular sound or moving this particular way, but this is just what your body needs you to do. And so getting into that instinctual state is amazing, because then it's like this thinking side of your brain kind of shifts off, and you just shift into that part of brain where you're so just kind of aware of what's happening internally, that anything happening around you, you're in labor land, you know, so you're not thinking about those things. And that's ideal. I love it when I've got a client who's maybe got her eyes closed and she's working through her contractions, and there's like nothing in this room that is going to distract her or pull her out of this beautiful labor land that she's entered into. So another thing that I think can be really helpful is to get curious about your pain. Whenever you're having a contraction, rather than just thinking and getting stuck on, it hurts, I don't like this, ask yourself, like, where am I feeling it? How does it feel? You know, are you feeling it in your back? Is it just, you know, the pressure? Is it, you know, like a sharp pain? Like, what kind of pain is this? Then you can move your body and see, does it feel differently if I'm in this position? and if you're in one position and it's not working and it's uncomfortable, change positions, get up and move around. Whether you're at home or in a hospital room, find things in your space that you can lean on, find things in your space, that you can just kind of use. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to help yourself get through labor. Um, I think it's also really important for us to remember that there's no one right way to give birth. If you choose to have an epidural, that's fine. If you choose to have some IV meds, like that's fine. We each have to find what is going to help us. Something that I've talked to my clients about a lot is the difference between managing your pain and feeling like you're suffering. I don't believe that we have to suffer pain when we're in labor. I will say that I think that there is pain and there is discomfort with being in labor, but this is pain with a purpose. It's not pain as an indication that something's wrong. The pain of labor is an indication that things are moving ahead, things are right. I think having that curiosity about your pain, figuring out how can I move to maybe change it? What happens when I move like this? What happens when I maybe like take that shower? If your water hasn't broken, how does it feel if I got into that labor tub? Using the things around you and just kind of exploring and figuring out how can I work with this? I think it's important for doulas and partners and friends of women to impart positive birth stories and not just tell the scary ones. We all know that there are sad and scary things that sometimes happen in life as well as in birth. But I don't believe that pregnancy is the time that women need to hear those stories. I think that a pregnant woman needs to hear those uplifting, those positive stories, and maybe those stories about like, well, I wanted it to go this way. It didn't go that way, but I got this beautiful baby at the end, so really focusing on the positive, and sharing those positive stories with our pregnant friends. And pregnant ladies, I think it's important for you to hear other birth stories and know about other people's experiences. But if somebody is sharing a story that's making you feel anxious, or it's making you feel like scared, or it's making you feel some kind of an emotion that you're uncomfortable with, you have the right to let them know, like, I know that this is your story, but right now this is too heavy for me, or whatever those words are that you need to speak, that you don't have to listen to somebody's birth story if it's making you feel uncomfortable. I think that it's important that we can be empowered in that way and know that we don't have to listen and to hear all of those things. If it's a story, that's not making you feel uncomfortable, but you can hear it and, just have sympathy or, have empathy for a person, then that's fine. You can listen to this story, but, kind of listen to your intuition. And if it's making you feel not right, you can just let that person know. There's definitely, kind ways that you can do that. It doesn't just have to be this like, stop, I don't want to hear anymore. You can find positive ways, just to let them know that that's a little too much for you. So that is my super brief presentation for you guys. A little virtual doula appointment. I'm happy to answer any questions or anything else. If there's something I missed or something else you guys want to talk about it, let's do that now.
I loved what you said about counting, and since I help children with disabilities, I know a lot about sensory needs, and I have so many myself. And so now I know, okay, I need to make sure I have sensory items around my house that could appeal to all the senses so that I can stimulate whatever I'm going to need in that moment. I'm trying to picture what that will look like. And it's so hard to predict because I don't know what I'm going to do. Sometimes when I'm in pain, like if I sprain my ankle or something, I'm in pain, sometimes I have to sing. I don't know if that's weird, but sometimes that helps. I don't know. So I guess I'll just kind of write it in the moment. I'll have kind of a list of things to think about, that I can try. But I loved what you said, and it kind of takes away some of the stigma, because I'm going to have people there watching me, and if I'm swaying and singing and counting and doing all these weird things, it makes it, I feel like that's okay. No one's going to judge me for that, and I can do whatever I need to do, because by Georgie, I'm giving birth, so I can. So
Totally.
I listened
Yeah.
to everything, and I enjoyed that very much.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Somebody with somebody. Mhm.
Sorry, it's kind of hard to tell.
You're
I had a really wonderful hospital birth for my first, in a lot of ways. And one of the ways was that my husband climbed right up on the bed with me, and we were just singing together. Or I would sing, he would like help me sing when I sort of lost the track during a contraction. And I just have a lot of really good memories of turning the institutional situation inside out, and not, I'm usually a goody two-shoe, but I just kind of let go, and he put his swim trunks on and got in the pool with me when that was an option, and sang, and it was he snuck me the breakfast, which he's not supposed to, but just small things that really made a big difference.
For sure. Yeah, I think that idea of being uninhibited in birth is really important. And I think as women and as like good patients, sometimes I think it's hard for us to just like let ourselves do whatever the heck it is we think that we need to do. Yeah, like you said, just like having that like intimacy with your husband and having him like climb into the pool with you, or just like singing, whatever that is. Usually at my like 38-week appointment with my clients, I'll have them practice moaning. And a lot of times for a lot of people, the only time that they moan is maybe like when they're eating some chocolate, or when they're like really having a pleasurable experience. But that idea of like moaning when you're in labor, and when it's something that you don't really think of as like a pleasant experience, but it's like a lot of women moan the same way when they're making love as they do when they're in labor. And so asking them not to say like, what's it sound like when you're making love, but just like, let's practice moaning. I feel like that can be a good way to sort of like lighten the mood a little bit, and also just like drop some of those inhibitions. One thing that it just occurred to me, I tell my clients, if you're making that like that kind of a sound, what's happening is that your diaphragm and everything in your body is tensing and pulling up, so it's like you want to make sure that you're making those like those deep sounds, because whenever you're doing that, your diaphragm and your cervix and everything is relaxing and letting go. And whenever you're in labor, like the whole point of it is to let go and to let baby come out. So yeah, making those deep sounds. And Bethany, I loved what you said about that you'll find yourself like singing to yourself whenever you've done something that's painful. It's just like, yeah, finding that thing that helps you to feel a little bit more relaxed, and just to like take the edge off the pain. And maybe you had somebody in your life as a child that sang to you whenever you got hurt, and maybe you'll sing to your child whenever they get injured or something. And just finding those ways of like self-soothing, I think it's really important. Anybody else want to share?
I was just going to say, I appreciated the part about, just finding your own breathing pattern. Like I didn't, take any specialized classes or anything. And I was really nauseous through a lot of my labor. And so whenever I'm nauseous, I kind of automatically have this like type of breathing to try to keep myself from throwing up, which is just kind of like a slow, just kind of like a slow, deep breathing. And kind of helped me feel less nauseous. And so I was doing that for most of the time. And my mother-in-law, who was there, she, did all the Lamaze stuff but she was like, well, try this, and I hated that. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. I don't like it. I kind of snapped at her. That was one of those labor moments. Not doing it.
Right.
But I appreciated that. It's like we all kind of have to find our own, pain breathing or focus breathing.
Oh, there goes Kylie. She's breathing through something.
Nothing?
Oh no, shoes.
Your shoes?
I have a question, Melanie.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you have any advice? For my second birth, well, I guess sometimes it's, what if there's something that's sort of irritating in your environment? Well, a personal example, for my second birth, it was a home birth, and I wanted it dark initially, and then it got too dark. And so like people turned some cell phone flashlights on, and that was like really the wrong kind of light and irritating to me, but I could never quite say that or visualize it. And I had, like some Christmas lights like right over in the other room that could have just been like plugged in, or they were on a snarl, but it's this kind of light, or like a few like desk lamps with
Right.
incandescent bulbs. Like I had the solutions very close, but it was so hard for me to like say, even I could have even just spit out, the light is bothering me. Then maybe, somebody would have been like, oh, well, let's find a different kind of light.
Yeah.
So, and then also people, maybe if the wrong person ends up in the room and you didn't realize they were the wrong person before, do you have any strategies or thoughts on how to advocate for yourself when it's really hard? Like the light was so simple. I could have solved it if I'd been remotely in that headspace, but I just wasn't. I didn't even get out the lights bothering me. It just bothered me.
For sure. I know exactly what you're saying. Like you can become so kind of sensitive to things around you, but also you've gone so far inward that maybe you don't want to have to speak the word. Like, why can't they just know that I don't like that, and especially for you, I know you pretty well, Lee, and I know that I think it's for a lot of us, not just you, it can be hard to like let somebody know that even though they're trying to help, it's not the help that you need and you want them just to stop. That's definitely tricky. I know as a doula, whenever I'm in a space with a client, I try to make sure that I'm in tune with the mom enough so that I can try to understand like what she's wanting and what she's needing. I find hand gestures can be really helpful, just like if it's the light that you don't want, just like pointing at it and just being like, like that's got to stop, and as far as like a person being in your space, it's like if you have one person that you feel comfortable with, whether it's your partner or your nurse or whoever that person is that you feel like, okay, I just need them to get this person out of here, whatever it is, finding one person that you can speak to in between contractions, and just asking them to be that gatekeeper and just asking them like, can you please ask this person to go? Or if maybe it's a nurse that you're having a struggle with, then once that nurse leaves the room, let your partner know, like, can you go ask for another nurse to come in or something, and just let them know. My thing has actually, I'll be honest, this is sort of funny, but my thing has been, if a client lets me know that the nurse is making them uncomfortable, what I've done in the past is gone to the whoever kind of the nursing supervisor is and just say like, nothing against this nurse, but she's really reminding my client of her mother-in-law or of her, somebody that she's got some issue that's not quite right. I've made it up. It's not that they've said she reminds me of my mother-in-law, but it's like some way of saying like, it's not this nurse, but it's something else internally that's going on with my client, so kind of finding the words to like be that gatekeeper to try to shift things and just ask like, is there any other nurse that could be in here? Or, something like that. And then, like I said, the light thing is tricky. It's like, nobody's going to be able to read your mind. And it's, trying to find like as few words as possible to get those things across. I know I was planning a home birth. Well, I was planning a water birth with one of my babies, and I was very much in labor, and my husband was trying to put the plastic liner into the pool. And, he's like 10 or 15 feet away from me, and the sound of that plastic crinkling, it was like, like I couldn't stand it. Even the possibility of being able to get into a warm tub did not, like, that benefit did not outweigh the discomfort of that crinkling sound. And I just remember, like, as soon as the contraction stopped, I looked over and I was like, stop it now. And he was like, I thought you wanted this. And I was like, I don't. And then it was like a contraction came back on and I was back into, like, you know, labor land doing my thing. And I think after the fact we laughed about it because that was like the most direct, like the closest to, like, I mean, I wasn't trying to be mean, but it was like, I can't talk about this. I just need it to stop. You know, I think, yeah, kind of having that little talk prenatally with your partner and just letting them know, like, whatever I say or do in labor, I don't want you to hold it against me. I don't want you to have any, like, residual irritation, and I don't want you to judge me. And just, like, whatever I say or do in labor, like, it's not related to the rest of our life, you know? Like, if you're going to be, like, mean or kind of grouchy or, like, you know, like that B word to your man or to whoever your partner is, like, you shouldn't have to say sorry about it afterwards. Like, you were in labor. They can just forgive you without you asking for that apology, you know?
Yeah, that's a good point. I also don't want to say, like, it's, I'm not trying to say that's like such small potatoes of something to be off, which, you know, talks about how good my labor was. But I think the larger point was that why I couldn't say the light is wrong, which would be the really, like, quick, direct thing to say, which makes sense to maybe practice saying quick, direct things,
Yeah.
is because I couldn't think through a way to solve it. Like, I didn't have that executive, like, I felt
Sure.
like in order to say the light was wrong, I needed to be able to explain where the light was, like, where the alternative was and what to do. And, like, and that was way too complex for me. So
Yeah.
just to be able to say something quick and direct and trust in the people around you supporting you, the doctors, the nurses, the midwives, the partners, the mothers, to, like, help you, you know, get from point A to point B, and you just need to say,
Right, like,
you know,
this needs to stop. You can figure out the rest. You know, they can figure out the rest. Like, this is what I need. Like, you figure out the other solution. Yeah. Yeah.
which I only realized after.
Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in or share experience or questions or anything else?
My midwives both times, I had a home birth both times, but they had me write plan A, B, and C for my birth plan. Mostly, I think, to make me think about it. Like you were saying, like, kind of think through what you want and communicate that with your partner and with your team. So she had me think, okay, like, so you get what you want and you're at home and things are going normally. Like, what do you want? Do you want music? Do you think you want the lights low? You want whatever smell and things like that. And then plan B was like, okay, we have to go to the hospital for whatever reason, not like a dire life-threatening emergency, but we have to go to the hospital.
Sure.
Like what things are, like, really important, and what things can you more easily be flexible on, or you know, I still really want this music and I still really only want these people in the room, but I can be flexible on this other thing. And then, like, if you, okay, we're going in and it's an emergency, we're doing a C-section right now, like, we got to save your life kind of thing, then obviously most things go out the window, but I really want my baby to be on my chest. I want to see my baby when they come out, or, you know, I'd like to have this music playing, or like something that would help you hold on to feeling, to help you get through that and make that adjustment. But just, like, I think having to think about that is, like, it's not something you want to think about when you're pregnant, because it's hard. And she even had us think about, okay, what if your baby dies, and like at the last minute they're born still, and what do you want to have happen? Because, like, when you're in labor, as I think everybody has said, like, you're not in, like, a good headspace to, like, make a clear decision. So, like, even though it was painful and it was really sad to think about that while I was pregnant, I think it was really helpful to have thought about that and talked about it with my partner, And fortunately, we didn't end up needing it, but I think it would have been important if we had, because like, knowing how even just going through a normal labor, like I would not have been in a position to make those decisions or articulate what I wanted. So having some of those like plan B and C kind of written out and having talked about them with my partner and my midwife ahead of time, I think was helpful. And had I needed them, I think it would have helped me process it afterward, having thought, well, like, okay, I thought through these decisions and I made these decisions and I did the best that I could with the situation that came up.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, kind of like using pregnancy as a time to work through things, whether it's like fears or like worst case scenario or things like that. Yeah, I definitely think that pregnancy is the time to like work through those things. This book, Birthing from Within, this is an awesome book, and it has like a bunch of different activities. And yeah, one of the things that it talks about is whatever those like fears are or anxieties are that you might have around labor, finding ways to verbalize them, share them with your partner and release them. And so I think like what you're talking about, Ariel, yeah, like having thought about that, like if you did have a stillbirth, or if you if you ended up having that cesarean or different things like that aren't your ideal birth, like then what, I think that's a good point.
I think that's huge in just giving you that sense of empowerment still, because okay, so if things derail from the perfect that you wanted, if you've only been focused the whole time on laying everything in place to have that happen, then there's so much anxiety around what if that doesn't happen? What if it doesn't? And then the slightest thing goes off course, then you're suddenly in this place in the middle of labor of feeling like everything's out of control and like you're totally unempowered. And I think if you've already got those secondary plans laid out, then it can just be a thing of, okay, all right, so we're switching tracks to this other plan that we had, so these are the things that we want now. This is still something that I am in many ways facilitating. It gives that sense of control back to an extent. Like, obviously you're not controlling all of the situations, the physical things happening with birth and the situation that's causing you to have to change your plan, but you can still have a sense of power in the middle of it too, I think. And especially since I specialize in the loss world too, the pregnancy loss world, I really hate those stories that I hear where it's like, I didn't know. Moms are blindsided by the fact that this is happening at all, and in the moment, in all of that emotion, they had no idea that they had this option, and this option that could have made that time more meaningful, or given them a little extra time with their baby, or given them chances to make good memories, and just really empowers you up front. And can keep you from having a lot more regret in the end, or I wish I had known this, or I wish I had done that.
Yeah, so true. Did anybody else have any thoughts or questions or suggestions or anything to put out there for the moms that might be watching this in the future?
I definitely second the whole thing that you said, Melanie, about breathing and not having some special like way that you feel like you have to breathe, or the Lamaze type of things or whatever. Anytime I hear someone talk about that, it resonates with me, because when I was in labor with my first baby, nobody had told me that. All I knew was the breathing things they taught me in the hospital class. And so then when it was time to start pushing baby out, they were like, okay, well, here's what you do. You're going to hold your breath for this long, and we're going to count. And then when we count to this number, you can let your breath out, and, you're going to push the whole time you're holding your breath. And so I was like, okay, they told me what to do. This is what we're going to do. And I remember coming pretty much to the point of hyperventilating. Like, I was struggling so much to hold my breath and do the things they were telling me to do. And they were saying it so urgently, like I had to do it that way. And I remember I just started crying in the middle of pushing, and the nurse was like, "What's wrong?" And I said, "I don't know, I can't breathe." And because I wasn't crying because I was upset, it was like my body's physical reaction. It just kind of happened, and I didn't know why it was happening. And I said, "I can't breathe." And like nobody ever responded again. Nobody said, "Well, okay, slow down and do this." Like I just took a minute to cry and then started trying to do it again. And like learning the second time around that you don't have to do that. Like you can just breathe and just work with your body was so freeing. And so I always want to like drive that home to people.
Yeah, that's such a good point. Yeah, it's like the hospital, like the doctors and the nurses, they have this like standard protocol for how they help women to push their babies out. That works for a lot of women, but yeah, there's definitely some of us that don't want to have to hold our breath and push for 10 seconds and then take a big deep breath and then push for 10 more and then take another deep breath and then push for 10 more. You know, so you can let your hospital staff know, or you can let your birth team know, I just want to try to intuitively push my baby out. I want to listen to my body. I want to see what I need to do. And I'm going to wait until I have that urge to push where I can't do anything but push, you know? And yeah, like listening to your body. That's totally a valid way to push your baby out. And sometimes like you might not want somebody counting to 10. Maybe you just need somebody like being your cheerleader and like giving you those words of affirmation and telling you like, you got this, keep going, push, you know. Or maybe you just want everybody in the space to be quiet and let you do your thing, and you can let them know that as well. And things like that. You can put on a birth plan, or you can, you know, make sure that your partner knows so that they can share it with the other people that are going to be assisting you with birthing your baby. But yeah, good point.
And I would add too that because when I've been at the hospital a lot of times with moms who have chosen that they don't really want to be verbally coached to count or whatever, they've told the staff that. It's just funny because just like you said, that is kind of just the standard way that they do it. So you may have to remind them too.
True.
And your partner or your support people may have to remind them, and that's okay. Because I remember one time specifically, the nurse was like, she just kept like starting to count and starting to coach her again, and then she'd go, "Oh shoot, I'm sorry," and then she would start to do it again. So it's like it's okay to keep reminding them. They're usually very open to it.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, they're not doing it to annoy you. That was their training. And like in their mind, like, this is what's going to help this mom to have her baby. And like I said, it helps a lot of moms, but there are alternatives. It doesn't have to be that way, you know, for sure. Lee, did you have something you wanted to say?
I just sort of being when I kind of did more like visualizations, more like almost self-hypnotized myself the first time and sort of quietly breathed my baby. And the second time I made like every stereotypical labor sound that I didn't think actually existed in real life, Hollywood movies or something. And that was the kind of breath that was effective. And I wasn't really consciously breathing at all, but I was making so much crazy, deep, loud sounds that you know, definitely breath there. So it's kind of, and the second time that really surprised me because I wouldn't have guessed. I didn't recognize myself in the same. So anyway, but it was both fine. It was a much shorter pushing phase with the loud. But it was also a second baby, so who knows?
Sure.
Anyway, I don't have.
Oh, I like that. I mean, that brings up a good point that it's like every birth is different, and like what works for you in one birth, you might want to try it a different way in your next birth, you know? And yeah, just like exploring and trying things. And it probably wasn't premeditated that you were going to make like Hollywood birthing sounds, you know, but it's what you needed to do in the moment. And like, you know, you got your little girl, so it works.
I will tag on that I also did not like the breathing that they make you do. And that wasn't something that I had thought, I didn't know ahead of time that I wasn't going to like that. So that wasn't on my birth plan per se. And I just kind of went along with it. But I did feel like it was a little bit too long, and I felt a little like it wore me out a little bit more. Like I probably would have been more comfortable with like 8 seconds or something, but and another thing too, like I just wish that there wasn't, a limit on how many people we could have in there. I know even now it's even worse. Like originally with Oblenis, I know that they fought to have 3 people, but at many hospitals it's only 2 support people. And I gave birth before the pandemic, of course. And so I, of course, wanted to have my husband there. And then my must-haves were my sister and then my mother-in-law. I don't have any parents, and his mom's really involved with us. So I really wanted them to be there and, be able to see Kylie be born. And I did also want a doula, but, and a birth photographer. Like I would like a whole crew in there if I could. So, but I was out of numbers on people, and that was really important to me to have those people there for me. Even though a doula would have been more supportive for like what I was going through for sure, because they weren't really like necessarily, nothing against them, but they weren't really supportive for what I was going through like a doula would be. But emotionally, I just wanted those people there. So I just wish I wish there weren't those limitations. I feel like we should be able to have who we want there.
Yeah.
Definitely a perk of home birth.
I couldn't tell that guy in it.
Yeah.
I'm just using a lot of positive affirmations about my upcoming birthing experience. It would be really easy to give into fear, so I'm choosing not to do that because it's like a birth nightmare, the new Lifetime original movie. There's so much of that out there because fear sells. So I just tell myself that I walk with the billions of mothers who have tread this journey before me. And so no matter what the birth ends up looking like, I've got this. I can do this. My great grandmother gave birth to 17 children.
Wow.
All with the same parents, and so I can do this. I can do this, and I'm not going to be afraid. And whatever happens, I got this.
That's awesome. I'm so proud of you for like already like just feeling and like knowing those truths, like hold on to those, and just like absolutely like believe that they're true, and like keep on reminding yourself. And if doubts start to creep in, or cultural fears start to creep in, like just get back to that and just remind yourself, like I come from a long line of women who know how to do this, and my body was perfectly made to do this, and like whatever happens, I got this. I think that that's a lovely attitude. Totally.
And
That's
like
awesome.
if you've got a picture of great grandma, like put it in your hospital bag, and you can like look at her if you need that reminder.
Oh yeah.
When you're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that I think can be really powerful is to have a blessing way, which is just the time to have women that you're close to, and that might look different during this, in the time of COVID. But I think you could even have something where, you ask, a handful of women that love and care about you to send you a picture and maybe a bead that you can put onto a necklace, or send you a little handwritten note or words of encouragement, or find some way to kind of connect with other women to build up yourself and just to remind yourself of like, I've got this and I'm not alone. And you can kind of look into blessing ways and figure out if there's a way that something that speaks to you, to just like take that time to like really honor yourself. But yeah, I love that.
The Birth Circle does own several books on the subject of planning a blessing way. Not necessarily planning a possibly distanced blessing way, but I'm sure there would be some ideas there that could be adjusted if anybody's interested in that. I did have a small one with my second. With my first, we like moved here while I was pregnant, so I like didn't have any friends here. But with my second, like I had a little gathering with some friends, and I had gave them each a candle, and then there was one person who was designated that like I would tell when I was going into labor, and then she would tell everybody else, and they would light their candles and be sending me all the positive mama energy on that day. And that, like, it just made me feel good to know that like they were out there, like they weren't with me, but they were out there and they were thinking about me, and that I wasn't alone.
Mhm.
And I really mean I really wasn't alone. I had a very large home birth team, but
Yeah, I like that idea of like bringing the picture of your great grandma or something like that. I always would set up like kind of a birth altar that would have different things that, you know, help me either to feel connected to my baby or connected to the process or connected to like just being like a total badass of a mom, you know, and like I can do this. You know, like if you're in a hospital, you have spaces and you can totally bring little objects and, you know, little things that make you feel good and like uplift your energy. You know, I feel like you can create that little like birth altar or whatever you want to call it, kind of regardless of where you're choosing to birth your baby.
Oh yeah, I love the idea of putting stuff up on the wall, even if it's in a hospital room, you know, putting up those birth affirmations or those positive things or the cell. Even I've seen people do like, Melanie, have you heard of the whole thing of destination births?
No. Is it like
So,
destination wedding?
yeah, yeah, it's like this whole concept of like having a theme for your birth. So like if your theme, like if you love the beach, then like you have all kinds of beachy reminding things in the room and like stuff on the wall or whatever, like all kinds of, you can go really like, there's probably stuff on Pinterest about it at this point.
I like that.
So cool.
Create like the space that you want to be in, you know. I love that. That's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. All right. Well, I think that was this was one of my favorite Zoom meetings I've ever been a part of, ladies and Sean. Do we have any other announcements or anything else that we want to share, Ariel or Kaylin?
I don't think we do. We did the announcements about next month, and
what time did you say the meeting was next month?
it's going to be at 7 o'clock on the 15th.
Okay.
Because that's like the day of the internet, like the International Remembrance Day. So
We set the board meeting for the 15th at 7:30, so I don't know if we'll need to adjust
we
that.
did. Yeah, we yeah.
Well, we'll have to make some changes.
We can make some changes, or we can push it later. I don't think it's going to be like it's maybe not always a super long meeting. So maybe the board members can stay on afterward or something. We can figure it out.
Okay.
Because I didn't process that
Me either.
with the scheduling, but I didn't get to pick the International Day of honoring infant loss. So
No worries. I
that's
just
the day it
figured
is.
to bring up while we were all here together, but we'll send out an email later to the board and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I do know that Melanie, I know you said you had some things that you had links to share, right? So for everybody who's watching this as a recording, I'm going to, in each space that I post this recording, I'm going to make sure that I put the same links in the comments or in the descriptions of each of those places where this video is posted, so you can still access all of that regardless of when you're viewing. And Ariel, I know you mentioned the Blessing Way books that we have in our lending library. So just FYI to everybody, our lending library is available even during the time of COVID. If there's something that you'd like to borrow, we can coordinate a way to get that to you in as contact-free of a way as possible. And you can always message us through the Facebook page or email us at athensbirthcircle@gmail.com if you want something. We're ready to
Awesome. All right. Well, I hope everyone has a good evening. And it looks like I've lost daylight, so I'm going to have to go home now. So thank you for joining us, and we look forward to seeing everybody next month for our meeting.
Thanks so much, Melanie. This was
Thanks
great.
so much.
Nice meeting you, Bethany.
Bye.
sure.
Thank you.
Bye.
Nice to meet all of you.
Nice to meet you. I look forward to meeting you in real life one day.
Yeah, I'll be here on the next Zoom too. Bye.